Hey, this is James from My Take on Reality. In this episode, we're going to be talking about 90 Day Fiance's Before the 90 Days, Season 5, Episode 14, Mike, the Fake Nice Guy. This is going to talk specifically about Mike and Ximena. Mike is from Thales, New York, and he is dating a young lady named Ximena from Colombia. Per usual, Mike is spending a bunch of money on Ximena. And he goes down to figure out why she's starting to change after he proposes. He buys her apartment. He pays for her furniture. He buys her a whole bunch of appliances and all this stuff. His friends, his family, and everybody he knows is trying to warn him against going down there and talking to her. And Mike, the innocent man that he is, decides that he's going down to fall in love with this woman who needs his help. She has 2 kids from 2 different guys in previous relationships, and her life is just generally a mess. Not because she's from Colombia or from a different country. Her life is a mess because she makes crappy life decisions. She is an habitual life ruiner. She just makes crappy life decisions, and then she rides with them and then says things like, it's normal. There's nothing normal about Ximena. Ximena is probably one of the most unique characters on 90 Day Fiance. Now, when we talk about the nice guy, we talk about almost a fictionalized version of the victim mentality when it comes to relationships. Mike holds himself out as a nice guy who's basically being taken advantage of by this evil woman who is using him for money. And he's, unbeknownst to him, he's just being hoodwinked because he's following his heart. The reality of it is, if you've ever watched this series and you ever go back and you look at the episodes where his loved ones, his father, his grandfather, his brother, his friend's fiance, all warn Mike about spending money on this young lady and how she's probably using him for money. And his friend even went as far as to say, how do you know there's not another Mike in Cleveland or Colorado or somewhere else in the United States? If you ever notice, take a look at Mike's face when people are saying this. He has kind of a smirk on that gnome-looking grill he has. Why does he have a smirk? Because Mike understands this. He understands that the basis of their relationship is him providing money. And by him providing money, it gives him access to a woman that he feels he couldn't get otherwise. And most likely he probably couldn't get otherwise, because even Ximena said with him paying her full rent, buying her appliances, paying for her kids, and just giving her money all the way around, she's even come out and said that he's not her type of guy. She likes big drug dealers. She likes criminals. She lived with a hitman at one time who threatened to kill her. You know, her second baby's father is a convict who's in prison for hurting somebody, beating the guy real bad, apparently. I don't know whether he beat him bad or he killed him, but she likes a certain kind of guy, rough, tumble type dudes. Mike is none of those things. So it's clear that she's dating Mike because he's providing a financial basis for her livelihood. This makes their relationship transactional in nature. There's nothing special or lovelorn or star-crossed about paying for somebody to spend time with you. And this is one of the things that I hear a lot about on different channels here on YouTube, and even growing up, you hear people say, if you make a lot of money or if you have a certain social status, you drive a certain car, you have a boat, a bike, a nice house, you live in a great neighborhood or whatever the case may be, you wear hip clothes, all of a sudden all these women will be interested in you. The truth of the matter is that those women who are interested in you for those things are only interested in those things. They aren't interested in you. You have nothing to do with it. And in essence, Mike has to understand that. He has to understand that Ximena has no ties and no loyalties to him. If he ever did get Ximena here in the United States, marry her, fill out the K-1 visa, bring her to the States, she's going to cheat on him within a month. I'll give her an outside month before she starts banging some of the dudes at the firehouse that he's been volunteering at since he was in high school. One of the things that bothers me about this type of victim mentality is that after a while, you start to believe your own press. You start to think that you're actually a good guy and that she's wrong for how she's acting. She's doing what she does. You guys, look, if I go to a restaurant and I order some food, the waitress isn't bringing me my food because she likes me. She's bringing me my food because I'm paying the tab and I'm going to tip her at the end of the night. I'm going to give her money. She's not bringing me food because I have a great smile and a shining personality. And in this case, Ximena isn't spending time with Mike because he's a good-looking, handsome guy who's coming down with a good heart. And you fall into this trap where you start to feel like, hey, if I'm providing all this stuff, logically, she should want me because I'm taking care of her kids. I'm paying all her bills. I'm going to give her a great opportunity. So she should like me. And then now Ximena is on the other side getting bad advice, love advice from her family because her mom and her dad and her sister want this relationship to work out with Mike so that way Ximena and her kids have a better opportunity once they come to the United States. Logically, it makes sense. But Ximena will never be happy with Mike. And you have to be happy. If you're going to get married to somebody, please, for the love of goodness, make sure that this person is a partner and not a pet. You want to make sure that you have somebody who you're investing in and they're investing in you and you guys can move forward together. Not somebody that you have to lead around and turn on and turn off and tell them to have a seat, stay, boy, stay, and all that kind of stuff. Don't follow me around. Kind of what happened in one of the episodes in the episode. You want somebody who's going to walk hand in hand with you, side by side, and help you build a future and a life together. During the episode, Mike does the ultimate Karen. Ximena isn't treating him well the entire time he's there. When he gets there, she tells him that she doesn't want to sleep in the same bed as him and she wants to sleep with the kids. So she kicks him out of the bed. Then she doesn't give him any affection. He threatens her with his friend's fiance, who he's using to interpret the Spanish to English because they're having troubles communicating. Basically, Mike wasn't getting what he wanted. He wasn't getting none of the poom poom. So he was going to use the friend to light threaten Ximena. So when a friend comes out and says, hey, Mike, she's using you. You need to get in a plane and go to a hotel, get on a plane in the morning and come on home. He says to Ximena, hey, my friend said I should get on a plane and go home. What do you think? That's light threatening because she knows that if he gets on a plane, he's taking his wallet with him. And she's going to have to probably move out of the apartment because he's paying all the bills and she's going to struggle taking care of her kids. So at that point, he says, oh, well, I mean, we could be friends. And so Ximena, you can see it in her face. She doesn't want to do it, but she asks him to stay. Damn near begs him to stay. Then he says, realizing her weakness, says, okay, well, can I stay in a bed with you? Can we sleep together? And she agrees to that reluctantly. Then later that night or the next morning, you find out that the two of them snuck into the kids' room and they had sex. She one-geared him because that's what she has. That's her tool. So she one-geared him and he's all excited. He thinks he got over because he got what he wanted. Now their relationship is great. All the problems they had before are gone because now he's getting what he wants. That's what he came down to Colombia for, to get some of that alone time, that special time, right? So they go out to dinner, and the next day, you can see it on her face. She wants to hurt Mike bad because she's been hurt and she feels violated. So she looks across the table and says, Mike, we're not going to have sex again until we get married. Mike starts flipping out. He's like, oh, man, I thought the relationship was moving forward, but it's falling apart now. This is ridiculous. And so they go out this last episode, they go out, play pool. And just a quick note, fellas, if your girl is wearing anything and she's just there and she's playing pool, and part of pool is you got to bend over to take shots, and she's bending over, and you notice that there's some guys there and they're looking at her while she's bending over, for goodness sake, you don't have to go crazy, run over, threaten the guys with the pool cue, swinging it around, cussing them out. What you looking at, son? What you looking at? You don't have to do none of that stuff. All you got to do is walk over, put your body between the guys and your girl bending over so they can't get a free show. That's all you got to do. And Mike doesn't do that. That's how I know Mike ain't the dude. That's how I know he's not a nice guy. That's how I know he's not experienced. Because any man would do that for their lady. You help protect your dignity by allowing her to have a good time, but at the same time letting these guys know that you see what they're doing and you're not going to stand for it. But in any event, Mike doesn't do that. Then he goes outside. They have a conversation. She's a little cold to him because she's angry. Right? She's still angry. So she's a little bit cold to him. And then Mike tries the old trick he did before and says, hey, I noticed that when I stop paying for things, all of a sudden you treat me nasty. She says, what? Okay. Again, she sold herself because he did this trick before. She rewarded that bad behavior. Now she's seeing it again, and this time she's not going for it. So she puts it right where the goats could get it. She says, look, I'm nasty to you and you still paying my rent. And so she says, that's it. It's over. I'm not your girlfriend. You're not my boyfriend. You don't have to pay for nothing else. Mike gets mad, and this is where he tips his hand. He says to her right off the gate, okay, fine. Then I want everything that I paid for, and I'm taking it back to New York. And this is the equivalent of a little boy saying, okay, I don't like how the game is going. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. Look, if you paid for the stuff, you got what you paid for, because you paid for a good time. You paid for a sexual experience. You had that sexual experience. So you put the money down. You got what you paid for. That's the transactional nature of your relationship. Don't sit here and pretend like all of a sudden you're the victim because she doesn't love you and she doesn't have loyalty to you. She never had loyalty to you. She was never in love with you. She never felt anything for you. The only thing she felt for was that money that you were giving her. And now you're trying to throw that money in her face and make her sacrifice who she is and what she's about and make her give up her physical autonomy on what she does with her body. So because you're throwing her a couple dollars and she doesn't feel as though it's worth it anymore. So she tells you to take I don't need it. You can do whatever you want to do. Okay, fine. Take everything out of my house. And I kind of respect her for that. Then Mike gets up, realizing that it's not going to work this time. It's not going to work this time. And my favorite part is when she looks at him and she says all this, she looks at him and says, oh, but we could still be friends. And that point, I knew exactly what she was doing. Well, I knew what she was doing before, but it confirmed it for me. She said exactly to him what he was trying to say to her, except for she flipped it around on him. She's been checkmating him the whole time because Ximena is not new to this game. She pushes it too far in some regards with the whole boob job thing and getting a loan from a loan shark before she secured that bag. But she's not new to the game. This girl has been involved with some criminals. She's skirting around the criminal world, right? And you got to recognize game. So Mike, being inexperienced as he is, and being a hurt little puppy, he jumps up out of his seat and starts running away. And I got to tell you, these guys, cameramen that they get from these reality shows, they must have worked for cops because they will run you down. The guy is wearing a damn pair of sneakers, jeans, and a t-shirt. This guy is carrying a 50-pound camera, and he's keeping up with Mike, running all over the street, jumping over things, trying to jump downstairs, everything. This guy is right on his tail. Now, the moral of the story is, fellas, if you have things and you think that these things are going to make you happy because it's going to get you the girl that you want, the truth of the matter is having money will get you the girl that you want. But the struggle, the commitment, the daily grind that you have to put into a relationship and that work will get you the woman that you need. Ladies, it doesn't matter how big your boobs are, how fat your behind is, the badonkadonk is. None of that makes a difference. What matters is the man is in love with you, not with what you can give him. whether it's physical, whether it's financial, or whatever the case may be. If he's in love with you, if she's in love with you, then those things can't be replaced. If you have a nice car, a big house, a fat bank account, there's always a guy out there who has a bigger, nicer car, a bigger house, and a bigger bank account that can replace you. You can always be replaced. Things can always be replaced. But the person that you are, if they're in love with you, is something that they can never duplicate. Now, that's just something to think about, and that's my take on reality in this episode of 90 Day Fiance Before the 90 Days. Mike and Ximena. Mike, you give real nice guys a bad name and a bad reputation. I'm James, and I'm out.
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCA.